to Leading the Way podcast, where you'll learn neuroscience-backed ways to lead more effectively and have more fun at work with what you already have. Hey there, it's Chris from Leading the Way, and I want to walk you through just this amazing approach. I'm so excited to share it with you. It's science-backed, evidence-based. I promise you, if your team is feeling stuck in any way, shape, or form, leader to leader, this is a way to get unstuck. This is a way to move forward, even if you've had to lay off staff, even if you're sensing apathy and everything else I hear when I talk to clients and leaders in the workspace. So I'm going to walk you through how to get from an undesirable state where your team's not performing and everything seems expensive and it's just exhausting to get everything through your company, to a transformative state in 90 days where your team is just on fire, and what maybe you would call your low performers are becoming some of your high performers, and they're innovative and they're producing just really, really killer stuff. So if that's interesting to you, stay tuned. If it's not, this is the time to check out and go find something else interesting. All right, so let me walk through what I'm hearing, three main themes I'm hearing from those executives I'm working with, and this may ring true to you as well. One, I'm hearing they're feeling like their teams have this apathy and kind of celebrating mediocrity as their big win, right? They actually made a date, or they're only a little bit over budget, but the product is like half done and a lot of stuff's left for the next sprint, and excuse, blah, 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 but we did really good and it's better than last time, right? Like celebrating mediocrity as your excellence. Now, there's nothing wrong with average achievement if you're really hitting the date, but I would argue in this work environment and this globalization, continually settling for mediocrity is a recipe for your disruption, and it sure is not a lot of fun. The other thing I'm hearing a lot is particularly with Gen X leaders like myself, sometimes with boomer leaders, sometimes with millennial leaders as well, is they're just seeing some apathy in their team. They're not seeing folks engaged like they used to be, or the old ways folks used to manage just aren't working and aren't resonating with their team. And they're just kind of getting the sense of meh, right? So that's one issue I'm hearing. Hear this resounding, and I've heard it through my 30-year career. Every year it seems to get worse, that things are slower and more expensive. What used to take a week and they just get knocked out is now $250,000. Some project that you really need to do is all of a sudden padded with all this stuff. It's $5 million in 3 years, and it won't get funded because it's not a high priority. If that sounds familiar to you, this is a way to untangle that web of mess where you're just stuck in this slow and expensive and you can't move forward with the things that are important to serve your customers, move your business forward, and really engage your team to be excited, okay? So you don't need to be pushing a car at the side of the road and celebrate that as the pace that you need to go at in this decade, all right? The last thing I hear a lot, especially from larger corporations and organizations, is there's some sort of corporate muck. And you've got to navigate through this layer of phase gates and new risk controls and new processes, and things are introduced, and other people that want to have an opinion and also want to review the thing that they already reviewed, but they're not going to talk to the last committee, right? It's like you're stuck in the mud like this off-road vehicle, and you've got to maneuver and have all these special skills and special equipment to get through just to get your project through. Okay? So if any of those three things resonate in any way, shape, or form, this approach is going to serve you. And what's really cool about it, as you as a leader with your team can make these changes nearly immediately and see results within a quarter and really move the dial. So if that's interesting to you, I encourage you to stay with me here. Okay, so this is what I call the 8-1-1 approach does. It allows you to use what you already have. You do not need to engage a giant consultancy firm and give them a bunch of money for their opinions that probably match yours, but it means more because it comes from the outside, right? You don't need to buy some big software package and go through procurement and RFPs and all of that stuff. You can use what you already have, yes, really. This creates both immediate and lasting results. So some folks will come in and do kind of a quick hit, and then the consultant leaves and all the magic goes away, right? Or it's like you've seen a software demo, and the demo was great. You get the real software in, and it doesn't really deliver, right? This produces both immediate and lasting results because it's neuroscience-based. It's based on how we are all wired. Literally, our nervous systems are wired, our limbic systems are wired, and it sets people that are struggling up for a win, and also does a lot of interesting things with innovation and ways that teams are motivated that a lot of leaders have forgotten about maybe. And again, I've already mentioned it uses proven neuroscience here. The main thing to be aware of is there's 50, maybe even 60 plus years of proven brain science with millions and millions of people and all kinds of circumstances that this has responded well to. It also leans on a lot of the organizational science of the last 3 decades. Okay, so there are ways that you can apply this and get results on your team. And you don't need to have a PhD, you don't need 30 years of study, and you don't need a big 3 consulting firm to do it. So how does this thing work? I'm going to give you a high-level approach to this just so you can get a feel of it very quickly. I'm not seeking to make you an expert in this presentation, okay? So you're going to change your organization ever so slightly into 4 teams. So we're going to pretend for a moment you have a team of 30 people. Let's say you're a director, you have 3 managers and about 10 people per manager, okay? Your org might be slightly different than that. We can fine tune it. Don't get high-centered on that if you have 600 people or 6 people, right? We'll talk that through if you want to move forward. But you're going to slightly change your org, okay? And I recommend you use colors for how you split these up. If you use letters or numbers, people will assign meaning to that. They'll probably even assign meaning with the colors. And there's lots of studies that show, like, if you're on the bad team, you'll perform poorly. And if you're on the great team, you'll perform great. We're going to undo all of that a little bit. Okay, so team purple. And use whatever color you want. If you don't like purple, name it orange or pink. Doesn't matter. But team purple, it's going to be about 3 to 7 people. Don't make it more than 7. Don't make it less than 3. Approximately 10% of the team. And these are those that are currently not considered your top performers. It could be your quote-unquote bottom performers. It could even be people that are close to being put on a performance improvement plan, okay? These are not your typical superstars, but you would love to see more out of them, and you believe that they're capable of providing more and doing more and being more engaged. Okay, team green. These are the higher performers. They're typically got the most skills. They're able to do things. They get all the accolades. So you're going to pick about 3 and as many as 7 people, approximately 10% of the team in question here. Okay, those are your team purple and team green, 10% and 10%. The 80% is team blue. Okay, and these are the people that are not in purple and green. They're going to do some different things, and we'll talk about it. They're still innovators. They're not left behind. They're going to have some incredibly unique opportunities, all right? So they're part of the mix of doing innovative, cool things too. And then team brown. The leadership team here has a role. You're not going to be a spectator. We're going to not have a giant amount of watchers and doers. We are all going to be involved in this. And for a quarter, you might be doing some things that are uncomfortable or new to you or doing more leadership in certain areas. Again, this is to get unstuck. This is to get out of the corporate muck. This is to have a lot more fun at work. So you're going to have to do some slightly different things. We're going to talk about more of that on the next slides. So what happens? What's the flow for the purple and green teams, those 10%, 3 to 7 people? They're going to form up, and there's some science and work to this, but you do some pre-work. You'll set them up for when, you'll form them up. They are going to decide the top 2 or 3 priorities, using general guidance from the company and information provided to them, but they get to pick. Okay, incredibly important here. You're going to trust their autonomy. You're going to trust their ability to create mastery and move forward. It's a different model, especially for you might assign to the quote-unquote lower performers. They're going to create an action plan. Now, they can reach out for help and guidance and all this. They're not left alone, to suffer, but they create their own action plan and they begin own work and the cycle in the sense that makes sense to them. Now, the brown team is going to support as needed, and some of that support might be different and what is uncomfortable for you. Namely, you're not going to have them do status reports if they don't want to do status reports, okay? You're not going to put all these layers of things on top of them to slow them down. You're going to help them get through phase gates, and we'll talk about that in a moment. So you're going to accelerate your role as someone that removes obstacles, as someone that speaks on behalf of those teams to make things very quick and easy for them. Now, that work that they do needs to complete in 90 days, and we'll talk about a budget here if anything financial needs to happen in the short term in just a moment. But this work must complete in 90 days or less. Okay, this is not a long-term, save the world, redo our whole back-end systems kind of project. Okay, so that's purple and green teams. The blue team, that 80% team, they don't just sit around and do nothing, right? So here's what happens for them. They're going to form up. Now, they've got to figure out, with 20% less staff, how they prioritize, get all the important things done, and also innovate. And yes, that's possible. It's a bit of a Tetris game. They're going to have to change some priorities. They're going to have to get creative. They're going to have to play into strengths of different people and be more active than just kind of like, going along. Okay. That team will create their action plan. Yes, they can have guidance and can have input, but really you're building up skills in your team so they come up with their own action plans here, right? Now, we're going to support them and the Brown team, the leadership team, very similarly, get obstacles out of their way, find ways for them to do things faster, get creative in how we approach problems. And the normal workload over 90 days will complete with some innovations. Now, oh my gosh, you have 20% less staff. You need to be reasonable here. This is not about making everyone work 80 hours a week. This is about getting more creative and smarter about how they work. This might mean some meetings are shorter. This might mean some status reports are gone away. There might be some administrative overhead that goes away. Maybe you don't need to double up everyone in every project in every meeting. Maybe you sit in some meetings for them, okay? Those sorts of tweaks are the tweaks you're going to make. Now, Team Brown, I've already said leaders, you're part of this too, okay? And it's a slightly different role for you. And sometimes, we've forgotten in our leadership circles how to do this. So I'm going to remind you of a few things. You are there to incredibly actively and proactively remove obstacles, internal and external, for that team. You're going to streamline processes, any ones that exist, and escalate on their behalf in advance. You're not going to put them through the gauntlet of approval cycles and risk reviews and all that. You're going to do a lot of that work for them so they can move fast. All right? Any overhead you can drop, status reports, additional overhead by project managers. I alluded to the watchers versus doers. If you're in a meeting and there's 20 watchers and 2 doers, stop that meeting, okay? Those doers certainly don't need to be there, and probably question why you have 20 people watching and 2 doing. Sorry to be blunt, but that's a problem in most corporations. Now, you may have a potential of limited funding, and this is totally up to you, but the guidance I give is if they need to buy capacity of something they already have, not a new tool, not a new contract, not a big thing that takes weeks to go on, but if they need a few more licenses or new capacity in the cloud, or something small. And by small, I would look at, let's pretend we've got 4 people on a team. Let's pretend they make 100K each, so about 400K without fully loading them with benefits and all that. Let's just say 400K. So that's about 100K a quarter. So they should not spend more than their salary range, not then more than 100K of expenditure. And it could be nothing, right? But they may need a little capacity. And if it's something you can get through your procurement cycle in like a week, maybe 2 weeks max, that's a guideline. If it's going to take more than 2 weeks, if it's going to take more than 100K, you should step away from that idea as something that you champion for the quarter. Okay, outcomes to expect. Now, you've shifted a lot of things here. You've taken some risk. You're doing some things uncomfortable maybe to you, and you're setting some folks throughout a win throughout this, right? There's some activities you're doing here. There's decades of brain science to back that this challenge, this autonomy, this ability to have mastery, taking away the micromanagement, taking away the gunk, these folks want to succeed and rock it. So you will see innovations from the purple and green teams, and you might be really surprised from the quote unquote low performers when they're set up for a win, when the barriers are away from them and they have a chance to really succeed. The blue team, that 80% team, is also going to be super innovative, and you're going to realize that you might have more capacity between your teams than you realized, and the structure allows that to happen. You're going to get a path out of this apathy, slow, and muck, because everyone needs to be engaged as a forcing function. And also there's some things you're going to do in the way you lead during this time that really build up the problem-solving capabilities of people, so they're not stuck in bringing everything to you. They're solving problems and maybe passing you up with some ideas in a really healthy way. You're going to see much more fun, some energy, some mastery. Yes, there'll be some struggles because there's growth involved here, and there's some uncomfort, and that's a healthy, good thing. There are going to be new skills built, and there's going to be leadership build-outs, sometimes from folks that you don't even expect, right? So now the weight's not on your shoulders. Now you've got a whole team that's thinking about new and creative ways to move things forward, even with the restrictions of maybe a smaller team because of a layoff or limited resources or the thing didn't get funded. That's not an excuse to not act anymore. And you've got a fully engaged team after these 90 days that I promise you is going to move the dial like you've never seen. Now, that is a lot, and it's different. And you might be saying, well, yeah, I can't do that in my organization because blank, right? We're not ready. It's too hard. No one would go for it. We might lose things, blah, 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 blah. I've heard them all before. I understand that's the corporate ethos. And if that's true for you, it's probably just time to accept that there's going to be apathy forever. Things are going to cost that way forever, and things are going to be slow forever. I don't buy into that. I buy in that there's a lot of brilliance in you and your team, and you don't have to settle for that. So if you don't want to settle for that, and maybe it's a little too different and too hard, maybe you want help making this happen, excuse me. And if that's the case, I'm here for you. I'm your guy. I'm willing to help set you and your team up for this epic success and help you build this out and set you up for a win so you can take it forward during and after these 90 days. So if you're ready for that, if you're ready to make that happen, there's links in this video and the notes to reach out to me immediately. You can email chris@avidintent.com. Happy to have a conversation with you. No high pressure stuff. We'll just talk about, hey, is this a fit? Great. If it is, let's go. And if not, awesome. We had a great conversation. That's it. So look forward to talking to you. And remember, it matters. Your team matter. And you don't need to settle for this meh kind of apathetic corporate attitude that just mediocre is okay. Excellence matters. People are brilliant and have amazing amounts of brilliance inside of them. And you as a leader can bring that out and really move your team forward. I look forward to working with you if this is a fit for you. Take care. Thank you for listening to Leading the Way podcast. Be sure to like and subscribe so you won't miss other great episodes like this one. And if you're ready for more in your workplace, be sure to go to aintent.com. You'll find lots of free tools, assessments, and ways to engage directly with us to get your own epic results. We'll see you there.